Hello, listeners. It is a beautiful morning here in Paris, and you are listening to Radio Eiffel Protocol with our special guests Rosa Vent and John Build.
Okay, get this. We're diving into what feels like a secret code in the software world today. And no, not some crazy coding language, something way cooler. We're talking the Eiffel Protocol. Ever feel like there's this whole hidden universe behind the apps you use, the websites you visit? Well, there is. You've actually handed us some in-depth Eiffel documentation. And it looks like this protocol is all about bringing order to that often chaotic world. From what I can gather, we've got explanations of how this secret language actually works, how different ideas within it all connect, and even stuff about security because, hey, even code needs its own form of protection, right?
Absolutely. It's fascinating how these systems form the backbone of how we build software today. You might not realize it's there, but it's the glue holding everything together behind the scenes.
It's like the unsung heroes, the stage crew, working tirelessly behind the curtain to make sure the show goes on flawlessly. So to really grasp this whole thing, we need to start with the problem Eiffel is trying to tackle. And the documentation paints a pretty clear picture of software development having, shall we say, some growing pains.
For sure. Think about how much software has evolved. Imagine a simple car being built years ago compared to today's cars, packed with tech, sensors, intricate systems. Software's the same way. It's not just a lone programmer writing lines of code anymore. We're talking massive teams spread across the globe, each using specialized tools, different processes, all trying to collaborate on the same project.
And the documentation even pointed out how companies are struggling to manage this whole thing, especially this continuous integration and delivery concept. You know, those app updates and new software versions we all encounter.
Exactly. Without a common language, a shared understanding of what's happening, when, and who's doing what, things can fall apart quickly. And that's where the beauty of Eiffel comes in.
So it's like trying to coordinate a giant orchestra without a conductor, and Eiffel steps in to fill that role.
That's a great way to put it. And it achieves this by focusing on events rather than issuing direct commands. Imagine a news feed or your social media. Each event is like a notification about what's happening in the software development process.
So instead of saying, go build this feature right now, it's more like sending out updates. Hey, we just made a change to this part of the code, or this new version is ready for testing.
Precisely. And this is a game changer for several reasons. First, it creates an incredibly valuable breadcrumb trail. You can literally trace back to see exactly what happened, when it happened, and who initiated it. Second, it's decentralized, which is huge for flexibility and scalability in system design. Think about it. Each team and even individual components of the system can operate independently, responding to events as needed without being bogged down by rigid instructions.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like the difference between a rigidly controlled factory floor and a network of skilled craftspeople, each contributing their expertise to create a final masterpiece. But this has me wondering, what kinds of events are we talking about here? What's actually going on in this fascinating world of Eiffel?
Let's dive into some specific examples to illustrate how this all works in practice. All right, let's kick things off with a crucial one. The Eiffel Artifact Created event. Think of this as the announcement when a new component of your software is successfully built.
So it's like a notification saying, hot off the press, we just baked a fresh batch of code. But what makes this artifact so special in the grand scheme of things?
It's all about understanding that an artifact can be many things. A piece of source code, a fully built program ready to run, a configuration file, basically, anything that's produced during the software development process. What makes the Eiffel Artifact Created event so powerful is that it doesn't just say, hey, we made this thing. It provides a detailed record of the ingredients that went into making it.
We're talking a full list of ingredients, like a recipe. Is that what composition refers to in this Eiffel universe?
You nailed it. That composition information is key. It's like having a detailed ingredients list down to the specific version of each component used to build the artifact. This might sound granular, but trust me, if a problem pops up later, this level of detail is a lifesaver. It allows developers to recreate the exact scenario and pinpoint the source of the issue much faster.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. It's like having a detailed history for every piece of the software so you're not left scratching your head if something goes wrong down the line. What other events are we working with here?
Well, we can't forget about testing, right? That's where the Eiffel Test Case Finish event struts onto the stage. This one's all about, well, the outcome of a test, whether it passed with flying colors or stumbled on a bug. The event data even includes detailed logs and performance metrics.
So it's like taking that freshly built software for a test drive, putting it through its paces and recording everything.
Exactly. Think about how car manufacturers put their vehicles through rigorous testing, crash tests, endurance trials, the works. The Eiffel Test Case Finish event is like having a detailed report from those tests, but for software. It captures how the software performs under different conditions, helping developers identify areas for improvement and ensure you're getting the smoothest, most reliable experience possible.
This is giving me a whole new appreciation for those app updates. They're not just random tweaks, they're backed by this incredibly detailed and interconnected web of information. It almost feels like Eiffel turns software development into this living, breathing organism, constantly evolving and adapting.
And just like any living organism, communication is key. That brings us to another intriguing event, the Eiffel Announcement Published event.
Okay, that one definitely sounds important. What kind of announcements are we talking about here?
Imagine a news bulletin board for everyone involved in the project. It could be anything from a critical bug discovery to a major system update, or even just a general status report. The key here is visibility. The Eiffel Announcement Published event ensures that everyone is kept in the loop, fostering a more coordinated and informed development process.
So it's like sending out a targeted alert, ensuring that the right people get the right information at the right time. I can see how this would be incredibly useful not just for developers, but for anyone involved in the project, from testers to project managers. Speaking of connections, how do these events all link together to paint the complete picture? The documentation mentions something called a DAG, right?
Right. Remember how we talked about Eiffel creating this breadcrumb trail? Well, the directed acyclic graph, or DAG, is how we visualize and make sense of that trail. It's basically a map that shows how different events are related to each other.
So it's like a family tree, but for software development events. You can see the lineage of every piece of code, every test, every announcement.
Precisely. For instance, let's say we're looking at that Eiffel artifact created event we discussed earlier. With the DAG, we can see that it's linked to an Eiffel source change created event, which tells us the specific code change that triggered the creation of that artifact. We could also see links to testing events, deployment events, any announcements related to that particular artifact. It's like having X-ray vision into the entire life cycle of a piece of software.
Wow, that's incredibly powerful. But how does this intricate web of information benefit the end user, the person who's ultimately interacting with the software? It sounds like Eiffel is doing a lot of heavy lifting behind the scenes, but how does that translate into a better experience for me, the user?
That's a great question, and one that lies at the heart of why Eiffel is such a game changer. It's not just about making life easier for developers. It's about transforming the entire software development process into something more transparent, more efficient, and ultimately more beneficial for everyone involved.
So we've established that Eiffel brings a sense of order to this often chaotic world of software development, creating this incredibly detailed and traceable history. It's not just for the developers, but for anyone involved in the process. But I have a feeling we're just scratching the surface here. What are the broader implications of this technology? What's the big so what for the everyday user?
You're right, there's so much more to uncover. Remember, at its core, Eiffel is about creating a common language for every part of the software ecosystem to communicate effectively. This has huge implications for how we approach quality assurance, troubleshoot issues, and even handle security areas that directly impact your experience as a user.
Okay, let's break those down, starting with quality assurance. How does Eiffel make a difference there?
Imagine you're piecing together a puzzle. Now imagine having a detailed record of every piece you've touched, every move you've made, and every attempt, successful or not. That's what Eiffel brings to quality assurance. With this level of traceability, if a bug rears its ugly head, developers can trace its steps back to the source, making it significantly easier to identify the root cause and fix it swiftly.
So instead of those frustrating moments where your favorite app keeps crashing and you're left wondering what went wrong, Eiffel helps get to the bottom of things faster.
Exactly. It's like having a superpowered debugging tool that can pinpoint the source of a problem with pinpoint accuracy. But it's not just about fixing bugs. It's about preventing them from happening in the first place. By having a crystal clear view of the entire development process, teams can identify potential issues early on, ensuring a smoother, more stable experience for you.
That's a win for everyone. No one enjoys dealing with buggy software. But what about security? It seems like that's becoming increasingly crucial in today's digital landscape. How does Eiffel contribute to a more secure software experience?
That's a critical point. Think about all the high-profile security breaches we've seen, incidents where hackers exploited vulnerabilities in software to gain access to sensitive data. Eiffel acts as a vigilant guardian, providing a transparent and auditable record of every single change made to a software program. This level of traceability is invaluable for security because it allows us to answer the crucial question: what code was changed and when? This helps us understand if a vulnerability was introduced intentionally or accidentally and allows for faster response times in patching those vulnerabilities.
So Eiffel is almost like a security camera for your code, constantly monitoring for any suspicious activity and ensuring that only authorized changes make it into the final product.
That's a great analogy. It's about establishing a higher level of trust and accountability in the software we use daily. And for you, the listener, that means greater peace of mind knowing that the apps you rely on are built with security in mind every step of the way.
This has been eye-opening. We've gone from this seemingly niche concept of a secret language for software to revealing its potential to revolutionize how we build, use, and trust software. But as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious about your perspective on the bigger picture. What does the Eiffel Protocol tell us about the future of software development?
What fascinates me most is how Eiffel represents a fundamental shift in our approach to software development. We're moving away from siloed development and embracing a future of interconnectedness, transparency, and accountability. Eiffel provides the tools and the framework for this exciting new era of software creation.
So the future of software is traceable. It's about knowing the who, what, when, and where of every line of code, every test, every decision made during the development process.
Absolutely. And that has profound implications, not just for how we build software, but for how we as users interact with it. We're entering an era where transparency reigns supreme, and systems like Eiffel are leading the charge.
That is a fantastic note to end on. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredibly insightful deep dive into the Eiffel Protocol. It's clear that this secret language is poised to have a major impact on the future of software, and I, for one, am excited to see how it unfolds. For our listeners, if this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, we encourage you to explore further. There's a wealth of information available on the Eiffel community website where you can delve deeper into the technical details and discover how this protocol is shaping the software of tomorrow. Until next time, happy coding, and may your software always be bug-free.